Most women don't get passed over for a promotion because they aren't qualified. They get passed up because no one knows what they bring. Hello and welcome to Deals with Heels. I'm Debra, your host. Welcome to the show. Today we have a great guest, and that's what we're going to talk about, how women can better highlight the values that they bring in corporate world and advance as an entrepreneur as well. So let's get started with an introduction always. Rosie Zilinskas, a keynote speaker and high performance career strategist, empowers professional women through her No Woman Left Behind coaching and podcast. With 30 plus years in corporate leadership, she helps women gain confidence, clarity, and the recognition they deserve. Rosie's signature talk, Promotion Readiness Roadmap program blend executive coaching with AI tools to unlock leadership potential and elevate women's careers. Today, we're diving into the real reason women get stuck and the 3 moves you can make this week to reclaim your power. Please welcome Rosie to Deals with Heal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about careers and how women can get that confidence to continue to advance. So, very exciting.
I know that I struggled in corporate America. I was there for 20 years running marketing departments, and I excelled in corporate America because I'm very good at what I do. I sucked at everything else that had to do with corporate America. I pissed people off, and I'm not good at politicizing. And I mean, I can keep, business secrets that we're not launching or we're doing this yet, but I'm not good at, being all vindictive and manipulative, and I'm not good at navigating that. I'm a Scorpio and I'm direct and honest. And so I could have used back then someone like you to help me, I think. But I want to start out, everyone starts out with kind of telling us their career journey and their entrepreneurial journey. You were a first generation Mexican American, and then you were in corporate America for probably more decades than I was. What was one of the tipping points that made you decide, I'm not going to do this anymore?
Hmm.
How'd you get there to that point?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I was never intending on becoming an entrepreneur. I always thought of myself as like, nope, I absolutely have to have my paycheck every 2 weeks in the bank. I want nothing to do with entrepreneurship or anything like that. But it was a slow evolution. In 2019, I started volunteering for Dress for Success, which is an organization that helps under privileged women to get uh, they get outfitted for a job interview, and then if they get the job, they come back and they do a whole wardrobe for a week. And then the career coach, that's where I came in, would give them some pointers. So I then joined Toastmasters. I then joined National Speaker Association, which I'm on the board now, and I'll be president next year. And I thought, I'm like, okay, so my kids were 15 and 17 at the time. I have so much to give back. So I started volunteering, and then once I joined National Speaker Association, I was like, well, wait a minute. I could actually go out and speak to different groups of women, sharing my knowledge and my story so that they can benefit from all of this. So I was still working while I was doing this in 2023. I got laid off, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I actually did go to apply for a chief operating officer position, and it was myself and another candidate. We were supposed to do a project, and when I went to do the project, I got nauseous and I felt like I was going to be sick to my stomach. And the second my husband walked in the door that evening, I was like, we need to talk. I can't do this anymore. And so he's like, okay. And by that time, I was already doing my podcast and starting to do a little bit of coaching and stuff like that. And that's when I decided that I was going to leave the corporate world permanently and then work on my business full time. So it's only been a couple of years, but it has been an incredible journey, and I cannot fathom doing anything else now. So it's been a wonderful journey.
I think it's fantastic how you are out giving back to
Mhm.
people that really need it. Dress for Success is a fantastic organization that helps women getting a second chance in careers and sometimes a first chance.
Yeah.
I was a scholarship student and worked my way through college and didn't have very big budget for professional wear. And there wasn't anything like that around, or,
Right.
it's such a great organization. So there you were just giving back and man found that side of your passion. That is so amazing. I love that. On your website, you say the biggest thing holding women back from getting promoted is often themselves. I mean, that imposter syndrome, we talk about it a lot on the show because I think that's it's hard for me sometimes, the
Mhm.
value proposition, because we forget, I'm 59. We forget that all of this life and experience, all the mistakes that you wish would never have happened taught us so much, and there's value.
Yeah.
Value in telling the story, value in teaching others, and I think it's hard for us. I think we fall into that trap, I guess, is what I'm saying. Can you unpack that for us? What does that really look like in real life?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm actually becoming a career confidence coach without really even intending to. Because so the coaching that I do is high performance coaching, and it's all about mindset. And it's so interesting because the biggest way that women hold themselves back is, first of all, they do all the hard work. They're bringing their knowledge to the table. They're getting all of their key performance indicators done. So they're doing all the hard work. The place where the gap is that they're not able to explain to people, leadership, how they bring value. And it's all about showing them how you are helping them solve their problems. When you put it in that context that you're the problem solver and you do so by, and then you list out all of your accomplishments, but there's an art in being able to explain to somebody else what your professional value is so that you're not fumbling through your words or trying to figure out what do I say. So I refer to that as you need to spend time in crafting your script. You need to use, and there's this fantastic book by Phil M. Jones called Magic Words. It is phenomenal. I talk to all my clients about that book because it's actionable, key, assertive words that you use. And it's all literally crafting your script. Craft out what you're going to say. How did this accomplishment impact the company and what problems did you solve? And a lot of times women don't take that time, first of all, Deborah, to know themselves. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? What do I excel at? Doing all of your skills roster, figuring out what your core values are, all that stuff. We don't take the time to learn who we are in what value we bring to the table. And so through my high performance coaching, that's exactly what we do. It's like the transformations that I see my clients have in 12 weeks are incredible, but you start retraining your brain to show how you are a problem solver. So that's just a start.
That is fantastic, and I do mindset training for sales, right? So I'm a sales coach, and boy, mindset is everything. It
Mhm.
controls your entire life, and changing that feedback loop of what you're feeding it is so important. One of the things that that I am s one of the things that you said about how they don't have that confidence, I think that we sometimes see it as the task as opposed to, right, I'm a marketing person, so you're the product, right? We're not used to ourselves being the product.
Right.
And if you do that and you can look at it in that perspective, now it's not about the task. It's about how I did the task and about the pain point you're solving for that person, just like regular marketing for your coaching business or your plumbing business or whatever. But now
Mhm.
it's you, right? And you're marketing it up to all of your coworkers and your boss about the problems that you solve and how you're it's the brand, the building demand, not just for what you do as a general thing, but for you as the provider of choice. And you're the best person to do it and to train anybody to do it and to lead anybody to do it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My mind automatically goes there, but I think that's part of it, that messaging, not just the messaging that we learn to tell them,
That's right.
but that we learn to think, right?
Absolutely. Another thing that I've been recently doing a lot of is, people obviously a lot of people are looking for jobs right now. And it's that owning the interview, like walking into the interview confidently. And you've had this experience where you've had a meeting and you were ultra prepared. You did all of the slides, the presentation, you know exactly what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, whatever. And you go in there and you kill it. And then on the other hand, you've had a situation where maybe the presenter didn't show up and you were kind of helping, and then they asked you to present, and you're like, oh crap, like I don't know what to say, whatever. And that's a great visual or analogy, I should say, to showcase how preparation, learning about yourself, and stepping into whether it's a meeting, conversation with your manager, or an interview. When you have done the preparation work, you walk in there so confidently that it just changes the whole narrative. And that's why I keep telling women it is time for you to literally spend time knowing about gathering all your accomplishments first so that you can start, getting that proof of how you have helped. But then at your performance review, sit down and craft your script. Obviously nowadays with AI, ChatGPT can really help you use assertive words, confident words, all that stuff, so that you can walk in there and say, hey, you know what? These are my accomplishments. I have solved these problems. What do I do to get a promotion? Or what do I do to get a raise? Those kinds of things. So it is the preparation of learning about yourself is so important. I just finished today, as a matter of fact, a 12-week training session with one of my clients. And she's like, Rosie, you know what? Even if I wanted to do this type of work, I couldn't, because you need that mirror, that bouncing, that someone reflecting where your pitfalls are. And I have coaches myself, so I know exactly what they're talking about. So it is so important to be able to walk into any meeting and exude that confidence because you're prepared, learning about who you are.
It is important, and then accepting it too. I did a media kit for a client that's gonna do some podcast guesting who has amazing experience and amazing backstory and so much I had to have 2 pages.
Mm,
And I'm an editor, I'm a deleter. So,
mm,
I had to have that. And he doesn't see himself. I'm like, "That's you. That's not even all of it. That's the summary of it." And so
yeah,
believing it, once your coach puts it out there, that look how good it really is. Look at what you did, not the task, what you did for the organization or for your team, and believe it. That's a big thing with the mindset, is believing it.
absolutely. Owning your expertise is one of the hardest things that people do because they don't believe of themselves as that expert. And one of the clarifications that I do with my clients is that, listen, just because you say, you know what, I'm the expert in human resources or whatever, doesn't mean that you have to know everything. So I think people are afraid of that expert word and they think that it implies that you know everything. And I'm like, no, nobody knows everything. Nobody expects you to know everything, but you're the expert in your topic. And that's what's a big key differentiator there.
And I think all of us feel deep down our expertise, right? We know what we're good at. We know what we're good at. Sometimes we don't want to accept that that's what we're good at, but once you do, then and you can embrace it, then doors open once you
Absolutely.
set all of that right. What do you think really separates women that plateau versus women that step into a senior leadership role?
I can, first of all, going in and having conversations and being able to explain to people how you can help them solve that problem. It's always like telling them who you are, who you're helping, and then how you're helping them. So that's that. It's no longer an elevator pitch, because an elevator pitch was like the I'm Rosie, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach. It's I. Now it's who you are, who you help, and how you help them. So it's like that personal value proposition. But when you go out there and you have conversations with people, and this actually happened to me in my career. I was a manager and I wanted to step into a home office position. I started having conversations about 2 years before I actually got promoted to an executive vice president with people and say, "Hey, how did you get to where you are and what tips can you like what advice can you give me?" So I started telling people, sharing with people, "Hey, I know I want to do something bigger. I know I'm meant for more. I don't know what it is, but that's what I think differentiates the person that plateaus from the person that continues to advance because they're out there, number one, asking for advice, and number two, telling people that they're ready for something bigger, which is when I was 40, that was kind of where I went wrong. It's like I was ready, but I never said anything. It's part of my keynote, my story where I just thought people would notice my hard work. I'm like, my work speaks for itself. And come to find out, it doesn't.
Not for women, it doesn't, that's for sure. I
Exactly.
think there's like a implied expertise with men that men have. They have to fail before they lose it.
Mhm.
And women, it's so much more. Our work gets questioned more. In fact, I can't remember who did the study, but it was of C suite level women and C suite level men and how much their decisions get questioned by their staff, by their team. And women, it was like 80%, 85%. It was this huge number. And the men, it was seriously 5%. They
Wow.
just don't question it. If a man leader says it, they do it. But if a woman's doing it, there's all these questions about why and are you sure and all this convincing. And so we just feel like we work so hard that someone should notice. And they probably do notice, but they notice you as that worker and going out, asking, getting to know, building connections, getting to know so that you can express, and nothing starts a great relationship more than asking someone for help,
Absolutely.
asking them for advice. When I first started podcasting, I asked, or being a guest on other podcasts, there's so many great hosts and I was so new, I would ask them for help. What can I do better? What do you think? And that's so great. How did you do that? And they were always so kind, and people like to be helpful. They like to
Yeah,
think that they gave somebody a shot, that they helped them through their day, and they likely did. I think it's important. So it's perfect that it makes perfect logic sense that that would separate the group as unwilling. That's
mhm,
part of it. I mean, if you're just willing to work and willing to express it and willing to learn and asking to learn something new, typically people will respond to that, don't you think?
absolutely, absolutely, and just to add on, I always like to say this little quote, although it has a big meaning, so Margaret Albright was former Secretary of State and she passed away, and she has a quote that says, "There's a special place in hell for women that don't help other women." And I always like to bring that up because for me, it's collaboration over competition first. So there was a time at work where they did this like a grading system, and you can only have like a certain number, 10% of ones, like 20% of twos, and things like that. And they literally made the collaboration disintegrate. People were very secretive. You're not going to know anything about what I'm doing because you were trying to one up the next person because of this ranking system. It was horrible. It took them like 2 or 3 years for them to like understand that that was like literally breaking down teamwork. And so I always love to say that quote because literally if you the more you are open to collaborate and give back, the more you receive. So it's such a and to me it's very intuitive to just like give and help and whatever, but it's not like that for everybody. But when you open yourself up to that, then you receive more. And we can go into a whole other tangent with
A
all of that
whole
stuff,
nother
but
thing. I think people get stuck in well, they didn't do something for me. They get stuck in this whole like, you have to make the first move. No one wants to do that. If it's
yeah.
important to you, then just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a resistant thing too. One of the things that I noticed when I was prepping for our show is your career roadmap framework. And I thought something that I didn't have when I was there that would have definitely helped me. I'm a big nerd, and so show me a specific way to do it and
Mhm.
I'll do it. What are the pillars of that? You have some specific pillars that I
I
think
do.
are really helpful. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. So there's 4 pillars in the Promotion Readiness Roadmap. And the reason why I call it a roadmap is because it's a journey. It takes time. You cannot do it in a day or a week or even a month because there's so much that you can do. But I do recommend for people to at least schedule 2 hours a month. If you schedule 2 hours a month to do one thing, by the end of the year, you would have invested 24 hours into your career, which a lot of women, we leave our careers on autopilot and we just expect it to continue to advance, but that's not the reality. So the very first pillar is, what is it that you aspire to be, to do, like aspire? This is where you kind of go back and you literally take stock or inventory. Do I like my job? Do I like what I'm doing? What is it that I get lost in and I just love doing, or I can't wait to work on and do more of that? And when you aspire, it's like, what are your personal goals, your work goals, and you start to understand what really lights you up. Some people may call it like your big why or your purpose, that kind of vibe. The second principle is, this is assess. So this is where you are taking stock and inventory of everything that you've done, and you can start with your resume, the LinkedIn, all that stuff. But what are your core values? What is your mission? What is your vision? So your mission is the how. Your vision is the what. The big why. But you can also start understanding, what is it that you want to be known for? What is your personal value proposition? How are you a problem solver? How do you bring value to an organization to solve problems? All of that is getting prepared for your interview. So there's many, many different components, but it's all assessing your skills and your knowledge and preparing. The third one is advice. This is where you go and you try to uncover your blind spots. So you're talking to your people that you have worked with, people that know how you've done things, and you ask them 2 questions. What do I do well? And what can I do better? And for this one, I always tell people, you need to be emotionally prepared to receive whatever it is that they tell you. And you also have to give them permission so that they can be honest with you. Because if they're not honest with you, then the exercise is futile. So, and by this, you start uncovering your blind spots and the things that they tell you that you need to work on better or more. Those are the things that you need to start developing. And then in that same principle, that this is where you can talk to senior leaders and ask them for advice. How did you get there? What advice can you give me? That kind of thing. And they start knowing you as well. So building those relationships. And then finally, the last principle is advocacy. So this is where you start telling people, once you do through the first 3 principles, then you're ready to start. Well, you're ready before, but now you're really ready to start telling people, I'm ready for the next step. I want to do more. I'm looking for more opportunities. And you literally, I used to call it advertising, but it's like advertising and advocacy, because you're talking about how you bring value, what you want to do, your next steps, your goals, and you're telling people about it. So many of us just expect that that happens organically, but and I'm sure you know this because you're in marketing and stuff, but for the Oscars, people don't just win Oscars. They have to campaign for themselves. And in my keynote, I actually say I'm campaigning for me, because that's literally what you need to do. When you are starting on your career development path, you need to campaign for yourself. So that final principle is that advocacy of, you're going out there and telling people all about how good you are and then what you can do to help them solve their problems. And so that's the roadmap, the path. But again, I'm not claiming that it's a once and done or it's easy. It takes intention and it takes strategy. And while you're doing all of this, you're building the confidence. And that's a big differentiator there.
It is, and it's like the first steps if it's like if you're building your ammunition, right? You're
Yeah.
building the fireworks that you're gonna shoot off later when you're advocating for yourself. And when you brought up the Oscars, I was thinking about because right now is the college football playoffs.
Mm,
And I was thinking, and we were having a discussion over Thanksgiving with my son and my brother and all of the people that were around about which team should go and how often a team doesn't get to go, even though they seemingly to all of us are great. And that's the thing. They didn't go advocate. You have to sell. You have to go out. Someone does, whether it's your coach, your AD, your hype man, or whatever.
mhm.
It's the same thing. You have to be your own hype man.
Absolutely. So, as a speaker, one of the things that we're taught is you need to do 5 reach outs a day. You need to do 5 reach outs a day. And just even if it's like individuals, people, event planners, whoever. So, you are constantly marketing. You know this, Deborah. You're constantly marketing. You have to be in front of people and people that you've spoken to in the past. You still have to reach out to them, to
Yes,
yeah, so it's like
prospecting,
yeah,
prospecting.
yeah. It's so interesting, and I am not one to be like, "Oh, I am in sales," but guess what? I'm in sales.
Everyone is, but it doesn't have to be painful. And one
No.
thing that helps on those reach outs that I always tell my clients is when you're reaching out, don't reach out with them with the mindset of I'm pitching them because they're going to immediately be able to tell. And now they've got the I don't want to buy. But if you are doing your touch base with them and you're talking to them about I have a goal. I love putting a goal in because you're talking to people that know you and they want you to succeed. They don't want to be sold necessarily, but they have that intention, good intention to help you. So they will often, and so you say, I've got a goal. I'm trying to reach by the end of the year. I have this program. Do you know anyone that I could help? Do you know anyone that could use a good speaker? You're still selling to them all your attributes. And if they need one, they're going to say so.
That
But
is gold, Deborah, that is
if they,
gold.
but if
I
they
love it.
don't, and so now you've completely popped that bubble of uncomfortableness for, oh my gosh, she's trying to sell me something that
Yeah.
Rosie, you popped that bubble. Now their guard is down. You're able to tell them what you're doing and build value and say, do you know someone? And if they don't, well, if you think of somebody, let me know
Yeah,
and
I
all the
love
stuff.
that.
And now it just deflates. It takes all of that pressure off of it. Because honestly, when you're networking like that, it's very limiting to think I'm trying to get these people's business, those 5 people. I'd rather look at it as I want everyone they know's business. It's
Yeah.
okay if I don't get their business. Say, maybe I'm not the only great sales coach that there is. Maybe somebody already has one. That's fine. I just want on the list of referrals because I'm a great sales coach too. Now you're still able to build value, which adds up over time. And so I like doing it that way where you're asking for help because people love to be
Mhm.
asked for help. And you've just taken away that uncomfortable feeling and pressure of, I'm going to have to tell somebody I like no.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that's part of it. It's not that they don't wanna hear what you're doing, it's that they don't wanna have to tell you no, and you eliminate them having to do that. If they don't volunteer themselves as a lead, then it's no, but they often will give you someone else.
I love it. I love this coaching. I'm so excited. And you know what I even love more about this is that that conversation, it can apply to anybody in the corporate world because again, every time that you're walking into your boss's office asking for a raise or asking for a promotion, you can apply the exact same framework idea that you just described and just flip it around a little bit to be a conversation. Because again, the one thing that we women don't do enough of is go out there and sell how the value that we're bringing to the organization, for sure.
And definitely because we often don't consistently feel it ourselves.
Huh?
Consistently. I feel it, I know it, I'm certain of it, and we all do. We still have moments where we question it. But you got to
Mhm.
talk yourself out of that, man. You can't live in that
Absolutely.
space. Well,
Absolutely.
I promised at the beginning of the episode that we were going to give the audience 3 moves that they could make this week to help them reclaim their power. So let's do that.
Okay, so one of the things that I think is so important, again, is just understand what your personal value proposition is. So, who you are, I'm Rosie Zilinskas. Who I help mid career women, and how I help them step into leadership with intention and confidence. It can be that simple. So, having that practice and in the back of your pocket is so important. The second thing is, and this happens all the time with boundaries of, people want your time, people want you to do X, Y, Z, and you don't have the time. So if someone comes to you, especially if you're a leader, and one of your team members like, I need to talk to you. I can give you 2 minutes now, or I can give you 30 minutes tomorrow. So giving them that choice. And then the third thing is just owning your expertise. That is so important. And as we said, that's really hard to do. But the more you feel it in your body and your brain and your soul that I'm a career confidence coach, then the more I believe it. And it's, that whole vibe of you don't have to be the expert, but you are the expert in your topic. So those are 3 things that people can implement immediately and it'll make a big difference. And again, the other thing is scheduling time to work on your career 2 hours a month. That's going to be a big difference and it moves the needle in your career.
And when you say work on your career, you're really talking about what we've been talking about the whole time, your messaging and your value perspective and spend time.
Yes.
I know people that have done things like put their resumes and their history all into AI and had those conversations. I think AI is a great tool for things like that because it sees patterns that we don't see.
Yes.
And you'll be surprised if you're struggling with your value proposition at how valuable AI thinks you are.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, if you just ask those questions, if you're struggling for the words, give it information and ask. And it's amazing when it's just the facts. There's no emotion involved. There's no regret involved. There's no memories of every mistake I made when I worked there involved. It's
Yes.
just the facts of what you've done in your life, in your career at that place and other places. And man, to see that summarized and talked about from just a factual perspective, I found very beneficial.
Mhm.
And I encourage people to do that are struggling with confidence. You don't know how good you are.
Yeah.
That, yes, ask your people that too, but to see it without somebody that I like, without gauging it, without emotion behind it at all, I think that can be helpful too. So I will add that to her 3 so that you guys have some great tips to really find your power again and step back into it and then stand and hold it. That's hard part too, but it's really important. Well, Rosie, you have been such a fantastic guest. Tell the audience how they can reach out to you if they want to have a conversation or find out more about your services and your podcast.
For sure. So the my company and my podcast are both called No Woman Left Behind. So you can reach me at no woman, WOMAN, nowomanleftbehind.com. So that's the easiest way for them to reach out. All my contact information is right on my website. So, and I'm also on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn.
And I will put links to all of those things in the show notes for you to be able to link to her directly. And what a great episode. I know everybody got a lot of great tips. I certainly did. And I love learning things new every day. I'm sure you and I are going to stay in touch because uh, I really liked what you're doing. I think it's really going to help women. Corporate world is sometimes an awful place to be,
Mhm.
and being able to navigate it and feel confident is such an important thing. And for entrepreneurs, you're walking into rooms with people that are in that corporate world as well. Being able to articulate and be confident in how you're doing it as a female business owner and entrepreneur is just as important. So thanks for being such a great guest. And until next week, you guys, we're out.
Thank you.